So, we come to the last chapter of section 1, which was called So You Want to Own an Art Gallery. And this particular chapter is called Ganga Green. An Asian-looking gentleman ambles in one day. He appears a little hungover, and a strong coffee seems like a good idea. Hi, my name is Anglo. We own the restaurant across the way. I have a friend staying with me, and he's an artist. A good one. I really think you'll like his work. Come over for lunch and I'll introduce you. It's been a quiet morning so far, and I'm on my own. So I put a sign on the door and close up. The sign reads, "Gone fishing, back later, ring me if you need to buy something." Hell, I own the place and I don't have to feel guilty, not one little bit. The restaurant is intriguing for someone like me who's never eaten sushi or sashimi before, or any Asiatic cuisine, so it could be an interesting lunch. Greetings and welcome. Table for one, sir? Thanks, no, but I'm meeting Anglo. Isn't he the boss? He not boss. He partied too much. Follow me. He walks us over a wooden bridge. Large koi carp are swimming around in the pool underneath, into the main restaurant. Chatting away with glasses of champagne are Anglo and the man I assume to be his friend, the artist. Welcome. This is Bruce. Have a drink. He pours me a glass of champagne. Cheers, he says, finishing and refilling his glass. Keep up. Bruce is in his mid-40s, in a smart designer jacket. It's nothing like you'd imagine an artist would be. Where do you hail from? I can't place his accent. Originally Australia, but that was a long time ago. Bruce from Australia? You're kidding. I don't say a word. He hands over a printed catalogue of his work. The words are in German, but who needs them when the images are so wonderfully dynamic? Much of his work features reflections of India's mighty river, the Ganges, or Ganga as he keeps referring to it. Then he painted groups of Indian women and men in their colourful robes and saris. The pictures are certainly different. I like them. So why am I experiencing reservations in spite of finishing the second and third bottles of bubbles? Lunch is served. It looks amazing. It's a work of art, using raw fish served with sculptured carrots and cucumbers in the shape of flowers and animals. Add some wasabi carefully, Anglo grins knowingly. I am a convert. This food is superb. But then I dip some raw tuna into the wasabi and it blows my head off. Tears roll down my face as I try to regain my breath and the rest of my senses. That's hot, like Vesuvius. It comes out as a squeak. Bruce controls his laughter and continues talking about himself. I'm already rather full and a touch tipsy when the next course appears. It's an array of fillet steak, tiger prawns, fresh salmon with a bowl of rice and vegetables. There's enough food for a banquet. Anglo opens a bottle of Burgundian red. Bruce knows the owner of the vineyard. Well, of course he does. You could visit my studio if you like. My work needs to be savoured at your leisure, and there are several large canvases that don't translate in the photograph. Well, where is it, I ask. Well, not far from Beaune, in Burgundy. Oh, why not, I say. A little trip to France, just the ticket. Oh, and it's tax deductible. That really ought to be the end of the meeting, apart from agreeing dates, but we continue drinking into the evening. Finally, Anglo says he'll come along for the ride. Well, why not? I haven't driven long distances in many years. Not at all, really, since I left home at 18 in a rather small car for a summer holiday, which lasted 3 years. When the time comes, I'm a touch reticent to go. If truth be told, given that I have a business to run, I just have to trust Belinda and Charlie not to wreck the joint while I'm away. We set off at the unearthly hour of 4:30 in the morning to collect supplies from the wholesale market. Apparently, Anglo is planning to cook when we arrive. Yes, we're to become the longest takeaway delivery service in Europe. Less than 4 hours to reach my first encounter with Eurotunnel. My mother, bless her Irish heart, has told me to keep the windows closed so we won't get wet. Before embarkation, it's coffees and croissants, obviously practicing for the French side. But the journey, once commenced, lands us on the continent in less than half an hour. Anglo has an insatiable appetite, so it's an early lunch in a service station restaurant. Nothing like our English motorway services. Home-cooked food and wine. I'm driving and do the decent thing, staying completely sober. After several such refreshment breaks, we land in the best wine region in France. Trust me, the wines in Burgundy are superb. following specific instructions. We leave the autoroute to travel along country lanes with plenty of charolais herds littered everywhere. Over 2 more steep hills, and lo and behold, what appears in front of us is a monstrous Gothic chateau. Bruce actually lives here? In fact, he lives here on condition he restores the place and keeps it going. More or less all the money from his sales of his work go into this 12th century pile of stones. We pull onto the cobbled drive and park by the ancient moat. The gatehouse is enormous. Our arrival sets the dogs off barking from the other side ferociously. A lot of them. A small crack appears in the Judas gate. "Come in slowly and you'll be okay." Their bark is far louder than their bite. We slide carefully through the wooden door and enter an inner courtyard like a Hollywood stage set. You might be forgiven for thinking that men in suits of armour are going to appear at any moment and blessed wenches to be chased. "We'll have a drink on the balcony," says Bruce, and leads the way into the dark interior of one of the buildings. The place has low ceilings with huge wooden beams, and the massive fire roars in the fireplace that's over 6 feet high. But that smoky smell permeates all over his canvases, a trademark of sorts. The balcony overlooks the valley, and the chateau being built on a high outcrop. Over in the distance is a small church from which constantly emanates the peal of bells. It's a typical small, French village on the other side of the river, with a population of not very many. I'm taking in the breathtaking view when a fighter jet flies low down in the valley, thundering through and scaring every living thing. The noise reaches us in its wake. It's an odd sensation to be standing above a flight path. "Doesn't happen too often," said Bruce, pulling the cork and pouring the wine. He sips it after rolling it round the glass, inviting us to follow suit. Anglo simply knocks his glass straight back. "This is from a Ven's vineyard not far from here. We'll visit him in the morning." Salute seems to be the appropriate toast. Anglo takes his refilled glass and starts clattering around in the kitchen area. Bruce examines me seriously, coughs, and spits out a major concern. "I've been badly treated in the past by dealers, and I have a real trust issue." "Oh, great. 11 bloody hours driving on the wrong side of the road, and the temperamental artist decides he doesn't want to work with me. Great." "Well, I can understand that." I put on my most sympathetic tone, even though on one level I want to kill him for wasting my time. But I have a belief in my gallery, and so far, everybody I work with has trusted me. I've always paid my artists, some up front on occasions, and as far as I know, I haven't disappointed any of them. So, if you feel it's not going to work, just tell me now. I mean, I still would like to see your paintings. After all, that's the reason you asked me to come here, n'est-ce pas? Anyway, how many dealers have ever come out to see you in your studio? I hope I already know the answer to that one." "Nobody," Bruce says softly, looking down at his canvas shoes. "Exactly. And if I like your work, and I have a feeling I shall, then I need to understand you and what goes on behind the scenes so I can convey a part of you when I'm selling your paintings. To me, it's a vital part of the relationship between the client and you and me. Don't you agree?" "More wine," he says. I don't speak. It's a closing technique. I'm good at this. Bruce stands to pour the wine. Still no response. He raises the glass to his lips. "Cheers," he says, smiling. I think and I hope he means yes. "Salute," I reply. "Food's on the table," shouts out Anglo from afar. We pass through the courtyard and into what used to be the drawbridge tower. It's a magnificent room, lit only by candles and a large fire and an even larger fireplace. Gothic as a description comes close to understatement. On an old table set for 3 is a spread of banquet to suffice an army. "I'm starving," says Anglo, ripping apart the long French bread and sitting down. We heave massive leather and wooden chairs into place and attend to our feast. Throughout the meal, Bruce tells me a lot more about himself, his chateau and his art. In fact, he never stops talking, but he has the merit of sustaining the listener's interest. Any residual ice between us melts, and I can see how much of an asset he could be, even after we accept some of his prima donna eccentricities. We continue into the small hours, and a bit like a summit between 2 countries, close the evening in a positive manner. That means see you at 6 a.m. We have to buy fresh bread and go wine tasting. Nothing like a 3-hour sleep after a long day's drive to set you up for a day out in the French countryside. So, 3 hours of sleep turns out to be a forlorn hope. The beds are as old as the chateau, I managed to lie in the middle of an ancient mattress without sinking so deeply that I'll risk being smothered. I think it should have been condemned in the Middle Ages. A dog starts barking way off in the valley, and the few chickens cluck away in harmony, and it's already 4 in the morning. In 2 hours I'm going to be getting up. Might as well do it now. So I venture downstairs and watch dawn rise over the valley from the balcony. It's breathtaking. I must have fallen asleep at some point and wake up to feel a wet tongue licking my hand, which has developed pins and needles draped over the back of the metal chair. 2 sets of eyes are staring at me in a hungry manner. Rolling, soft but menacing growls emit from one dog as if the other is still. He seems no less potentially threatening. Twisting round in my seat, I find a third hand, now licking his lips rather than my fingers. The odds are stacked against me. My communication skills in canine French are very limited. I point towards the kitchen and whispered, "Le biscuit?" 3 pairs of ears prick up. The church bells ring out. It's 5 a.m, 1 hour to rescue. Eventually, Bruce appears and lights a wood-burning contraption. The dogs curl up around the old metal stove and relax. Funny, so do I. The relaxing, not the curling. Did you have a restful night? It isn't worth explaining, so I confine myself to saying that I'm looking forward to breakfast. I'm vividly imagining fresh-baked French bread. We have some time. Let me show you my studio. We head for the far tower. We duck through a low arch and start to climb a set of narrow, minuscule steps. They must have been very small feet in the 1400s, compared to my size 12. Reaching the first floor, the sight's amazing. Bruce has painted the ceiling in cascading waterfalls. Cobwebs and old glass bottles fill the room, which contain only an old wooden table and a chair with no seat. Perfect setting for a carry-on film. We don't stop. In the far corner is a steep set of wooden stairs, somewhat akin to a rickety ladder. An old frayed rope hangs down from the top, the only concession to safe climbing. Mind your head when you get to the top. Bruce makes his ascent look an easy jaunt. I grapple the rope and do as I'm told. I still hit my head on the stone beam. Climbing through the hatch, I arrive in the turret. The studio has a wooden stove for heating, a wooden floor covered in paint and cushions, and a table under the window piled high with paper. There are a number of powerful paintings leaning against the wall, including a huge 3-metre-long canvas with a crowd of at least 50 people painted on it. How do you propose to get that out of here? I ask. An obvious question, really. Voila! He moves a stack of large canvases, and hidden behind them is an old wooden door. I swing them down with ropes, weather permitting. He wrestles the old door open, and the view is stunning, if you take your mind off the long drop to the courtyard below, that is. I'm impressed, and I say so, establishing a genuine connection with Bruce at last. We've broken through the barrier. Gallery owner and artist will henceforth get on. I'd love to sell your work. Well, I have others to show you first in the library. I battle my way back down the old stairs, this time to visit a safer outpost of Bruce's empire. The library, like the turret room, is full of paintings and several piles of newspaper. Oh, he says, my boyfriend collects them. He never reads them and they just drive me mad. Well, why don't you burn the lot down in the big fireplace? There must be a hazard in here, surely. My suggestion is ignored. Take a look at these. Bruce pulls a huge dust sheet off another stack of paintings. I could easily spend an entire day going through his collection of stretched and rolled paintings, but we don't have time. Not with bread and wine calling. Bruce drives, leaving me free to envision the exhibition I can create. A selection from so many paintings should be an easy task. Then all we have to do is ship them back to Blighty and sell them. Meanwhile, back in the car and hurtling down a little track with enough space for a goat or a French sheep, Bruce pipes up, I have a great idea. Maybe he secretly wants to be a rally driver. Who knows? I'm eating my seatbelt in fear. Anglo looks equally terrified. Luckily, we survive to reach the boulangerie. The place already has several people in it, and conversation punctuated by shrugging shoulders and tutting his order of the day. The place smells divine. I'm mad for the taste of fresh bread. Then I spot an egg tart beckoning for me to buy it. I can't ignore its call and eat it straight away in the car, the nutmeg flavour orgasmic on my tongue. Armed with 3 huge French sticks and a bag of something or other, Bruce slams the boot shut and jumps back in, barely giving Anglo time to take his seat before hitting the accelerator. We're going to achieve max speeds rather sooner than I'd like. The area is known for its rolling hills and natural beauty. But at 80 miles per hour, everything is a blur, including the white cows which fly by quicker than storm clouds in a hurricane. Hitting the brakes at long last, we slide to an abrupt stop. Thanks be the Lord. We're in front of a lovely 17th century house with shutters on every window. A massive front door supports a huge brass knocker, a gargoyle with vine leaves spouting from its mouth. We don't even have to knock. The door opens and a well-dressed young chap sporting a red cravat, red striped jacket and red corduroy trousers emerges. Have you remembered the buns, he says. Antoine, this is my new dealer from England, says Bruce. My new status confirmed, progress and promotion. Good morning, bonjour, I offer my hand. Antoine ignores me. I've had the most dreadful morning. Colette has walked out. She hates my cologne and the way I run my business. She's taken my dog. What am I to do? Bloody hell, it's a soap opera. Who's Colette? Bruce puts his arms around Antoine. It'll be all right, he says, in French. At least it sounds like French, albeit adulterated by some local dialect. Then, as if nothing happened, Antoine shrugs him off and says, let's try the new vintage. This is the best bit, where Anglo wakes up properly, briskly setting off in Antoine's footstep. We end up down a cellar, filled with a classic mushroomy smell and a host of barrels and bottles. D'accord, right. Today I'm going to try my new mix for the first time. He taps a barrel and pours 3 full glasses and a ladle. Bruce does the vigorous twirling, sipping and slurping bits, pushing it between his teeth and sucking. Then he spits the whole lot out. Antoine does the same. I sip my glass, then I sip some more. Tastes creamy and smooth. Anglo already has emptied his glass, so I finish mine off too. Out of Bruce's bags come little baked round balls. They're light and have a cheesy aftertaste. We munch in silence. Then Antoine opens a bottle of white wine, knife around the metal top, followed by an old corkscrew, and pop! The wine is liberated for drinking. Again, 3 glasses are poured, and 2 men swirl and spit, while 2 others knock it back with gusto. This is no cheap plonk, but delightfully Moorish, even at 8 o'clock in the morning, especially at 8 o'clock in the morning. What do you think? Says Antoine at last. I'd like 2 cases, please, says Bruce. More wine! It's a warming but strange effect to be under the influence of alcohol so early in the day. However, as a suspicious sod, it occurs to me that there might be a reason for all this softening up. Bruce suggests sitting down. That's an easy task. I have an idea. I know you'll sell my work, but I want to have an exhibition of something a little different. Antoine blushes and seems to shrink in stature, frozen in the act of refilling my glass. I have been using Antoine as a model for my project, the innocence of a winemaker, relaxing. This might explain all the cushions back in the studio. He's naked. Total silence falls. I tried to catch Anglo's reaction, but he's hugely ignoring the rest of us. Are we talking meat and 2 veg, I inquire. No, it's very tasteful. Challenging opportunity, then. Undeniably, there haven't been too many naked male exhibitions in selling galleries, and it could be an interesting marketing challenge. Not sure what Belinda will make of it. Here's the deal, then. Let's get opportunistic and strike while the iron's hot. First, we'll have a show of your landscapes and river paintings. Then we follow it up a year later with your nude project. However, you'll need a sponsor. Bruce gives me a winning smile. Done. I've already got a wine merchant on side. Well, that's just brilliant, I say in total exasperation. Sorting the wine is going to be the least of our problems. What am I letting myself into? It's either going to be a stress fest or the social event of the decade. Got to do it, though. Sold, I say. The end of part 1. Thank you.